They called him invisible. In the town of Red Hollow, people like Jonah Pike didn't make noise. They stacked shelves, closed up at night, paid rent late, and learned not to look important men in the eye. Jonah was 26, soft-spoken, and permanently tired. He lived in a one-room apartment, above a laundromat, that rattled like it was breathing. Every morning at 5:12 a.m., he walked to the corner store where he worked the early shift, passing the same courthouse steps where Power sat and waited for people like him to trip. On the morning everything changed, Jonah found the wallet. It was tucked behind the soda cooler, fat with cash and credit cards, an embossed seal on the leather that said County Commissioner. The name inside was Evan Hale. Everyone in Red Hollow knew Evan Hale. He sponsored the youth league. He cut ribbons. He smiled with his teeth but never his eyes. And he owned half the town without ever admitting it. Jonah did what he'd always done. He turned it in. By noon, 2 men in suits arrived. Not police, at least, not the kind Jonah recognized. They thanked him, shook his hand too long, and told him he'd done the right thing. By nightfall, the store manager pulled Jonah aside and said there had been a complaint. Something about missing cash. Something about Jonah's attitude. He was fired before his shift ended. That was the first cut. The kind you don't feel until later. A week after that, Jonah was arrested. The charge was burglary. A warehouse on the edge of town had been broken into. Equipment stolen. Surveillance footage showed a man with Jonah's build, wearing a hoodie like the one Jonah owned. The date stamped on the video was the night Jonah had been fired. He had been home, alone, eating noodles and listening to the laundromat thrum. No witnesses. No receipts. The prosecutor smiled when Jonah pled not guilty. Evan Hale's name never appeared in the report, but his fingerprints were everywhere. Jonah's public defender met him once. She spoke fast and glanced at the clock. "They're offering a deal," she said. "Time served. Probation. You don't want to fight this." Jonah did want to fight it. He just didn't know how. In jail, he met Marcus Reed. Marcus had the calm of a man who had already lost what mattered. He listened more than he spoke. And when Jonah told his story, about the wallet, the firing, the arrest, Marcus didn't interrupt. Power hates mirrors. Marcus said finally, "You held one up." The trial lasted 2 days. The footage played again and again. Grainy, conveniently blurry. The warehouse manager testified that he'd seen Jonah hanging around weeks earlier. The jury nodded. The judge frowned. Jonah's lawyer barely stood. Then something strange happened. The defense requested a recess. A new attorney entered the courtroom, sharp suit, steadier voice. She introduced herself as Claire Novak, retained counsel. No explanation. No delay. Just a sudden shift in the air, like pressure dropping before a storm. Claire cross-examined the warehouse manager with precision. She asked about lighting, about the camera's angle, about access codes. She introduced cell phone pings showing Jonah's phone at home during the break-in. She submitted maintenance, logs revealing the camera's timestamp had been off by hours for months. The prosecutor objected. The judge overruled. For the first time, Jonah felt sane. Then Claire did something no one expected. She called Evan Hale as a witness. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Claire was calm. "Commissioner Hale," she said, "do you recognize this wallet?" Hale smiled. "Of course." "Do you recognize this transaction?" She displayed a receipt, equipment rental. Same tools stolen from the warehouse. Paid for with Hale's card the day after Jonah was fired. Hale's smile thinned. "I rent equipment all the time." "And this key fob?" Claire held it up. "Warehouse access. Your name is on the authorization list." The judge leaned forward. The prosecutor objected again. The judge overruled again. The power in the room shifted. Not completely, but enough. The jury deliberated for less than an hour. Not guilty. Jonah exhaled a breath he didn't know he'd been holding for months. Reporters scribbled. Cameras flashed. Claire squeezed his shoulder once and disappeared into the crowd. Outside, Jonah asked the question burning in his chest. "Why did you help me?" Claire paused. "Because someone tried to bury the truth. And because I used to be buried, too." Evan Hale never went to prison. 2 weeks later, the district attorney announced there was insufficient evidence to pursue charges against the commissioner. The rental receipt was called a clerical error, the key fob, a misunderstanding, the camera logs, inconclusive. Hale held a press conference on the courthouse steps. He spoke about faith, about resilience, about moving forward. He never said Jonah's name. But Red Hollow had changed. People whispered. Contracts dried up. Invitations stopped coming. The Youth League found a new sponsor. The mirror Jonah had held up cracked the glass, just enough for everyone to see their own reflection. Jonah got his job back at a different store owned by someone braver. He moved out of the laundromat apartment. He slept better. And then, one night, a plain envelope appeared under his door. Inside was a single photograph, a warehouse lit from the inside, a timestamp corrected, clear, unmistakable. On the back, 3 words were written in careful ink. Part too soon. Jonah sat on the edge of his bed, the photo shaking in his hands. He should have gone to prison. And someone, somewhere, was making sure the real story wasn't finished yet. The photo didn't leave Jonah's hands that night. He sat on the edge of his bed until dawn, staring at the corrected timestamp, at the light spilling through the warehouse windows, at proof that had existed all along and been buried on purpose. By morning, the envelope was ash in the sink, but the image was burned. Into his mind. Someone had risked something to get it to him. Someone who didn't want Evan Hale protected anymore. Red Hollow woke up like it always did. Coffee brewed. Trucks idled. People nodded without speaking. But Jonah felt it, something underneath the routine. Like the town was holding its breath. 3 days later, Claire Novak called. "I didn't send the photo," she said before Jonah could ask. "But I know where it came from." They met in a diner off the highway, a place where no one lingered. Claire slid into the booth across from him, eyes sharper than he remembered. "Evan Hale didn't walk free because he was innocent," she said. "He walked free because the system only opens one door at a time." Jonah swallowed. "Then why show me this now?" "Because the other door just cracked," Claire said. "The warehouse belonged to a shell company. The shell company fed into a development trust. The trust paid consultants. The consultants paid Evan Hale's private accounts. It wasn't theft anymore. It was laundering. And it wasn't small. What Evan Hale had stolen wasn't just equipment. It was federal grant money, funds, earmarked for infrastructure, repairs after a flood that never fully healed Red Hollow. Roads stayed broken. Homes stayed condemned. The money disappeared. The problem wasn't evidence. It was timing. Federal investigators had sniffed around before, but Hale always knew in advance. Phones wiped. Records lost. Witnesses softened. The mirror cracked, but never shattered. Until Marcus Reed made a call. Jonah hadn't heard from Marcus since the acquittal. He assumed the man had been transferred, or released, or swallowed back into the system. But Marcus had connections that didn't wear badges. He traded information the way other men traded favors. And when Jonah told him about the photo during a brief courthouse hallway conversation weeks earlier, Marcus listened the same way he always had, quietly, completely. Marcus knew the warehouse had a second camera, one Hale didn't control. It belonged to a logistics company contracted years earlier and forgotten. The footage had been archived off-site, mislabeled, untouched. Marcus knew the technician who'd installed it. The technician owed Marcus. The corrected timestamp wasn't an accident. It was a decision. Claire laid it out without drama. "The footage shows Evan Hale entering the warehouse himself," she said. "No hoodie, no mask, clear as day." Jonah's heart pounded. "Then why not release it?" "Because if we dump it now, it disappears," Claire said. "Or worse, it gets explained away. This needs weight, context, a reason no one can ignore." The reason arrived a week later. A bridge collapsed outside Red Hollow. No one died, but a school bus missed the gap by inches. News crews flooded in. Old grant paperwork resurfaced. Questions followed money trails that no longer led nowhere. The federal government opened a formal investigation. That's when Claire moved. She didn't leak the footage. She filed it. Quietly. Properly. logged, under oath with corroborating, financial records, timestamps, and sworn testimony from the technician. She attached Jonah's case as an appendix, not as revenge, but as pattern. Evan Hale denied everything. He stood at podiums again, spoke about persecution, about enemies, about politics. But this time, the smiles didn't hold. The contracts were frozen. His accounts locked. His phone rang less. Then came the knock. Not state police. Not local. Federal agents. Early morning. Cameras waiting. They didn't arrest him that day. They didn't need to. They took boxes, drives, files. The house emptied slowly, piece by piece, like power leaking out of the walls. Jonah watched the news from his living room, hands steady for the first time in months. He still won't go to prison, a neighbor muttered in the hallway. Maybe not, Jonah thought, but he wasn't invisible anymore. Weeks passed. The case grew. Evan Hale resigned for health reasons. His name vanished from buildings. The Youth League took down its banners. The town didn't celebrate. It recalibrated. One evening, Jonah found another envelope under his door. This one heavier. Inside were copies, bank transfers, emails, signatures. At the bottom, a note in Marcus's careful handwriting. Truth doesn't rush. It waits. Jonah understood then. Prison wasn't the point. The point was removal. Exposure. The end of protection. Evan Hale would never sit behind bars the way Jonah had. Deals would be made. Charges reduced. Sentences softened. Powerful men rarely fall all the way down. But they do fall. And when they do, they don't get back up the same. Jonah folded the papers and placed them in a drawer. He didn't need to act. Others already were. As he turned off the light, his phone buzzed with a single message from an unknown number. He knows you were the first. Jonah stared at the screen, the weight of it settling in his chest. Justice had been served. But the reckoning wasn't over yet.